When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Skims or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling and for shoppers buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. It's home of Shop Pay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Allbirds uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/income.
At T-Mobile, our critical mission is providing unparalleled 5G coverage for when connectivity is mission critical. Introducing T-Priority, America's best 5G network experience for first responders, even in times of congestion. More capacity, faster speeds, better coverage. T-Priority from T-Mobile, built for tomorrow's emergencies, ready today. Discover more at t-priority.com.
For qualifying organizations on eligible rate plans, coverage not available in some areas and may be impacted by emergencies.
Hi, I'm Chad. I'm a Gen X grown-up. I support Gen X GrownUp through Patreon, and you can too at patreon.com/GenXGrownUp.
No life, no fun. Don't you know that you're a grown-up?
Gen X Grown Up is a YouTube channel, website, and audio podcast you're listening to right now. All made for and by people who love exploring media, games, tech, and toys of yesterday and today through the eyes of Gen Xers who refuse to grow up.
Your dinner cannot just be french fries. Basically, life sucks as a grown-up.
Welcome back, Gen X Grown Up podcast listener, to this episode 186 of the Gen X Grown Up podcast. I am John. Joining me, as always, of course, is George. Hey, man.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
And not joining us, uncharacteristically, is Mo.
Hi, guys. How you doing?
Is what he would say if he were here. Mo had, he's off gallivanting the planet. He has things to do. We've never done this before where one of us wasn't here before, but we started looking at the calendar. We're like, it's just going to be a royal pain to figure out a reschedule for these shows. So George was like, well, screw Mo.
We can just do it. I mean, his baby mama calls and he has to go running away, so we can handle it ourselves. Mm-hmm. And, the blue-collar workers of the podcast world can keep earning their 50-cent paychecks. And we can move on.
Us.
But you've done the show without me a couple of times when I was over in the Philippines, but you had another third party. There's always been 3 voices minimum on the podcast.
Yep.
So this might be a little bit different, but my point when I told John and Mo, I was like, well, we can just do it, me and John. I'm fairly sure John and I can fill up a podcast just between the two of us talking.
Oh, that's not a concern I ever had. Right. Not at all. No. Well, speaking of this podcast, in this episode, we're going to head to the theater for the new film based on a short story by Stephen King, install a productivity browser extension that will change the way you view, download, and convert website images, and play a gruesome third-person horde shooter that pits you against waves of brain-thirsty zombies. Those topics and many more, well, a few more, not 3 of us, several more coming up in this
many more,
episode.
several more, few more.
Some amount.
This 2-person thing is throwing you off.
Right. A reduced amount, but it will be here in this show.
All your adjectives and adverbs are out the window. My God.
They are.
It's anarchy.
That's right. Oh, no. Does Mo become the 4th listener and the listener becomes the 3rd? Maybe that's going to happen this episode since he's not here.
Well, I mean, he only becomes the 4th listener technically if he writes in about this episode and we decide to acknowledge it. I mean, he might not even listen.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, look, you got the day off, take the whole day off.
Right.
All right. Before we get into the body of the show, it's time. Speaking of 4th listener email, our 4th listener this time around is Jake M. He dropped us a line. The subject of his email was HBO free preview weekends.
Ooh, this must be another George is right email.
Well, I wouldn't have chosen it if it were. So let's
there's only 2 of us. What else are you going to choose?
I might be right. It'll work that way. Jake says, hey guys, this is going to be kind of a long one and a tangent to your recent rewind with your HBO episode. Okay, so the rewind came around.
All right.
He says, I never had HBO at home with my mom, sadly, but my grandparents did. So grandpa would always tape movies for me. That's nice. Nice, grandpa. The flip side of that is at my dad's house. He had HBO, and I only found out when I was a teenager that he never paid for it.
Ooh.
Where the cable lines came into the house on the outside, lightning had apparently flipped a switch permanently, unscrambling or shifting the signal. No one found out for over 20 years.
So God decided his grandpa should have HBO.
His grandpa paid for it. His
his
dad got it
dad.
through lightning. Act of God.
Ah.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, it sounds like something you would do, but you wouldn't wait for lightning. You just go out there with a wrench and start tinkering with it, is my expectation,
No,
George.
I told the story how my father figured out that I knew how to rig the boxes. So, yeah.
Yep, I know. See, I knew you would tinker with it. That's why I said. Let's see. Jake goes on to say, now, you guys mentioned free weekends for HBO and by association, other premium channels. Do you remember a time when Disney Channel was premium and not part of basic cable? I certainly do. Do you?
I don't. I didn't remember that.
It wasn't part of basic.
I wasn't paying
for sure.
attention to it, though. Yeah, but that makes sense. I mean, as new channels came out, they were rarely part of basic cable. They were always their own thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I don't remember what the fee was, but it was always like an extra, $2.99 or something of every premium channel you wanted, or $5.99 or whatever.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
Well, he says there was one weekend when I was in high school that they did this for the Disney Channel, and the cable company would always send out a list of what was going to be on. Remember those ads that would go during the free weekend on HBO? What you're going to see. Yep. He says, I vividly remember seeing that one of my favorite Disney films, The Cat from Outer Space, was going to be on Sunday at 8 p.m.
That was the one with the little orange tabby that had the collar that had the little glow thing on its neck.
The collar.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's right. Says my mom and I had just gotten a new VCR and I had zero clue how to program it. So I knew I must be home to hit record. My mom and I were out grocery shopping. She was trying to rush me home so I could watch and record. We pulled to the driveway at probably 7:55. I busted through the door, ran to the living room, terrifying my cats in the process. I made it just in time to start, and I'm pretty sure my mom was laughing at me the whole time. It's a good story. It really is, Jake. And he even tags on there, I never get the chance to tell this story to anyone. Well, now you have. Now you've told it to George and me.
Yeah.
Jake just wraps it up by going, thanks for the great show. Keep up the backtracks and rewinds. Thank you and be well from a long time fourth listener. Cool. Thank you, Jake. That's great.
Nice.
We appreciate that you took the time to write in, and we appreciate that you found someone to tell your cool story to that would appreciate it, as we certainly do. Fourth listener, if you would like your email featured here on the show, you know it is drop dead easy. Just hit us up at podcast@GenXGrownUp.com. We read every single one, and most of them, like Jake's, is eventually going to make the show. All right, George, just you and me. We get back to the break. We're going to jump into the body of this episode. Stick around.
This episode is brought to you by Hyundai. Whether you're running errands with the kids or heading on a weekend escape, the new 2025 Hyundai Tucson Hybrid is packed with class-leading advanced safety features like blind spot view monitor, forward collision avoidance assist, and wireless phone charging, so you can stay focused on what really matters. Learn more about the new Tucson Hybrid at HyundaiUSA.com.
You're listening to Gen X Grown Up. But if you have a friend who's not yet listening, why not? Tell them about us. They'll thank you later.
To see how a bathroom gets this shiny clean, you have to go back to the beginning. To fresh-scented Lysol Basin Tub and Tile Cleaner. Lysol has the power to cut through dirt and soap scum, and it disinfects. Try Fresh Scent Lysol. It's how the shiniest bathrooms get their start.
All righty, we're going to get the ball kicked off here at the top of the show, as we always do, talking about media that we have been checking out since we last spoke. Now, of course, this could be comics or music or television or film or books, whatever you're currently into. And George, so I can take a breath from the intro, I'm going to let you start and tell me what you have been checking out.
Yeah, well, I'm going to do my typical thing. And since Mo's not here, we've got plenty of time. I'm going to talk about two things in my media spot here, but the first one I'm just going to barely
now it's justified
mention.
Somehow? Is that what you're saying?
It's justified, yeah. The first one I'm just going to make a brief mention of. If you haven't been able to watch Reacher Season 3 yet, which is currently running on Amazon Prime or wherever you get your public domain media content from, I just want to say, go watch it immediately. If you like that type of show, the action adventure, cop procedural, high drama, a little bit of mystery, it's really well done. Alan Ritchson, I said many a time is probably the best physical and manifestation of a character I've ever seen in TV or film. Like, he epitomizes everything that the original books were about, from Lee Child, if I remember correctly. Anyway, one thing I will say is, every time one of these episodes comes out and I watch it, which right now we're halfway through the season, I get just a little bit angrier. And I'm angry because that's one less episode that I have in this season. I'm going to have to wait another year for season 4, which they damn well better renew this thing, because with, what happened with Jack Ryan, I was a little bit upset that they didn't go any further than the 3rd season. I think I wanted to see more of that, because that was such a great show in and of its own right on Prime. Prime better get it right this time. I want like 8 seasons of this shit. I want every Jack Reacher book to be put on TV, because they're doing a great job with it.
Yeah, I read an article that the author Lee Child had particular books that would prefer to see turned into television, and so it looks like maybe they're talking about it. If he's going to mention that, then maybe that's the deal. But I was going to ask you, I have not caught up with season 2 yet. I started it, didn't finish it, and I heard middling things about it. I know you're all caught up. Do you think season 3 is stronger than 2, or?
Stronger? No, I don't think any season so far is stronger than any other. I think they are all equally strong. They're just different stories. I know that some people might say they don't like season 2 because they're comparing it to season 1, and I don't think that's fair. The only thing that's comparable is the character, and what the show is doing really well is showing the growth in the character between the seasons. They're not like, oh, season 1 ended, next day is season 2. They're spacing them out. There's time between season 1 and 2. I think it's like a 2.5 year gap or something like that. Okay. Same thing with season 2 and 3. There's now another year, 2 or so between those. But they're doing a great job with it. They're all equally great in my mind. I finished a rewatch of 1 and 2 with my son right before we started watching season 3. My wife and I watched seasons 1 together. She didn't catch up on season 2, so I have to go back and do a rewatch of that with her. But I love it so much, I'm going to anyway.
They don't care.
No, I'm happy to do it. But the thing I really wanted to talk about with my media spot is not Reacher, even though we got into that a little bit longer discussion than I had planned. I want to talk about a movie called The Gorge. I don't know if
I've seen it. I haven't seen the movie. I've seen it exists, I'll say. Yeah.
Right. So the main star, who was one of the co-stars from the Top Gun Maverick movie, is one of the main stars in this one, along with that Anya Taylor-Joy, I think. Is that her name? Or Taylor Anya Joy, the girl who was in the restaurant movie.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So they're essentially like these super secret agent people from their own governmental organization entities that are on the opposite sides of a real life gorge, like a big chasm out in the middle of nowhere. They don't know where it is because before they accept the assignment to go and watch over this gorge, which they don't know what they're watching for even, they're drugged and put on a plane, and they wake up right before they're dropped in by parachute to this gorge place that they have to hike into, each one of them on their own thing. So there's a whole lot of mystery to it. It turns out that this is not just a tale of the two of them who are not supposed to speak to each other because they're opposite governments or whatever. But they do, of course, because you've got no radio contact, no TV, no internet. You're out in the middle of nowhere. There's one other human being on the planet in your world at this point. What are you going to do? So they do the whole thing of, looking at each other through binoculars, and then they're playing chess across the gorge, and they're writing funny poems and dancing and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. Until one night, sirens and alarms start going off. And I mean, I hate to do spoilers, but it's been out for a little while, and, I want to at least tease you a little bit. Ravenous, weird, humanoid creatures come climbing out of the gorge that they have to shoot down with all these gun turrets and everything else at their disposal.
Like zombie things or like aliens?
I mean, I know the whole story, obviously, because I watched it, but if I go into too much of it,
gotcha. Don't tell me.
It could taint. Yeah. So,
okay.
Is it cinema? No, this is not cinema. Is it a fun, distracting action film with a little bit of a heart and some science fiction thrown in? Absolutely. So,
I thought you were going to say no again.
No.
You're setting me up.
it definitely is that. So if you're interested at all in having like an hour and a half, 2 hour distraction one night, maybe with a significant other or a friend or a group of friends even, it's a fun film to watch. The two main actors in it do a serviceable job. It even has, what's her name from Alien? Ripley. I can never remember that actress.
Sigourney Weaver.
Sigourney Weaver. Thank you. Sigourney Weaver is in this as the higher up on the guy's American side.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a fun little film. It came out of nowhere. It's one of these, I think Netflix is where it was at. So it's one of their in-house production things, and it's well worth it. It's a good, fun science fiction, horror-ish survival action. Boy, it's got a lot of things to throw in there.
There's a lot of descriptors.
Yeah. I mean, if you have time, I highly recommend checking it out for some fun.
Okay. All right. I mean, I have it because someone asked to see it, so I grabbed it for them, but I just looked at it. I had no idea what it was about. I'm just like, I don't know. So now I do.
Yeah. It's pretty sporty, but I know the thing that John wants to talk about. This guy has got popcorn buckets and he's been posting all about it on the Discord channel, GenXGrownUp.com/Discord. And
there you go. Zing.
I could not imagine that you weren't going to talk about this item in your media segment this time.
No, not at all. It's about a monkey. It's called The Monkey. It's based on a Stephen King short story called The Monkey, and I was dying to see it. And you're right, George. I was looking forward to this probably way too early than I even should have. We were talking about it on the show. It's something I was dying to see. It's directed by Osgood Perkins, who is the son, a grandson, I forget, of Anthony Perkins. So he has his horror lineage, comes by it naturally. And of course, the short story by Stephen King. It was part of Night Shift, I think. That collection had like the mist in it and all those things. Anyway, so I was excited to see it. Let me start up front and go, much like Osgood Perkins' last film we talked about, Longlegs, which was set up as something, the greatest horror movie of all time. And we kind of thought that, and we talked about how that might have tainted our perception of it. This is not quite that, other than it's kind of set up to look like a horror movie. The original short story was horrible. It was a terror, but this almost isn't. I mean, it's a comedy horror, but it's so barely horror. I did enjoy it. But so here's the premise, if you haven't familiar with the story, is that this young man, when he was little, comes by way, inherits this toy monkey.
You were struggling to say that you enjoyed it right there.
A little. I don't want to misrepresent, right? Comes in possession of this toy monkey, and in the book, it's actually he has cymbals, clang, clang, clang cymbals. In this show, he has a drum. But either way, when the monkey plays his instrument, whatever it is, plays the drums. In this case, someone dies a horrible death. He causes people to die. This monkey, when you play with it, when he was a young kid, he tried to get rid of it, but it's a mystical, weird magic monkey, so it came out of the well he threw it into. And so the story here is about an older man now grown up who is estranged from his twin brother, and the monkey people are starting to die in the town where the monkey was last seen, and it pulls the people there, and they're investigating it. The actors do a great job. They're not big actors, but you've seen them in stuff, and they do serviceable jobs in this. The problem, again, is I think how this movie is positioned. It felt like in all of the trailers, a horror movie. But by the time you got to it, it was fun. It was like Final Destination. People were dying in crazy, crazy ways. But you almost, like Final Destination, like you see it coming and you see the build up and like, these just kind of happened by surprise. They were crazy, but they weren't like, the anticipation wasn't building. And in the end, they're so ridiculous. They muted the horror to the point it was just a good crowd reaction film, but not a horror movie, if that's what you're looking for. And I missed that in kind of how they presented it to us.
So I'm going to take issue with just a little of how you went about that. Only because you talked about the director, his former project being Longlegs, which you and Mo, I know, don't feel like it was a horror. I'm the dissenter in the group. I feel it was the best horror movie that I've seen in a long time.
All right.
I really liked Longlegs, and I thought I made that point clear in the time we talked about it on podcast. Maybe I didn't, but
yeah. Well, look, I we both liked it. We just didn't feel it was horror like you do. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like horror, just like all the other genres has a wide range. If you're going to say science fiction, that has a wide range. If you're going to say drama, that has a wide range. So horror, I feel like, especially in this day and age, has a wide range of things that can fit under that umbrella. And there's a ton of subcategories. If you look at Netflix and all the different subcategories of different subjects, you'll understand what I mean, the genre, subgenre, whatever you want to call it. But I haven't seen The Monkey at all.
Sure.
But I love some Stephen King.
Sure.
And the collection that this came out of, if you're right, that it came out of the same one that The Mist was in. The Mist is one of my favorite stories of Stephen King's of all time. I felt like that Thomas Jane movie was a great adaptation, expanded that story. I really love the ending that they put on that one in the movie. I don't want to let myself be dissuaded by you saying it's not horror, because I kind of want to feel like it. So I'm going to wait and watch it on my own. I hope other people do as well. But I think the grandson or son or whatever, nephew, uncle's aunt, whatever Perkins is of Anthony, I hope that he continued in that Longlegs tradition, because that was a great fucking movie.
So I at no point was I trying to dissuade anyone from seeing it, which I understand your point there. But maybe I could tarnish it and make you not want to see it through, the things that I said. I guess if I had to put it on a scale, like, this is less horror than Longlegs was. Now, Longlegs was super serious. This one almost feels silly at times. And I think he was going for that, but it doesn't pick a lane. Like, there are things that happen, even stuff you saw in the trailer, that is like, that doesn't have any real context. Like, I'm at a funeral and things are really tense. And then you have the little young priest that comes up to the microphone and goes, fuck, like, there's no reason for it, or it just feels like silliness for silliness sake. And that's kind of what dampens the horror for me. But as you said, I don't want to discourage anyone from seeing it. I did enjoy it. I don't need to see it again right away, but I'll watch it again later for the crazy kills. That's the thing that will bring me back.
You talked about it being comedy horror and disjointed. Would you say it was as good, better, or worse than another comedy horror like Child's Play?
Oh, I enjoyed this more than Child's Play. Yeah. It's definitely a better film. You just said, The Gorge was not cinema. This is closer to cinema than a Child's Play. It just, again, it's more goofy than it is horror. So the comedy horror, put comedy first. It's not a horror comedy. It's a comedy horror, and maybe I'll acquiesce. So, yeah. Okay.
So maybe a Renfield kind of feel?
Yep. That's an apt comparison. Yeah. There have been a few of those lately, and that's nothing wrong with them. I just want to make sure people go into it open eyes and they know what they're getting. So, all right. That's The Monkey. That's what I saw. We'll be right back.
Ever met a foundation that does it all? Say hi to NARS Light Reflecting Foundation. Makeup meets skincare in a bottle. It evens skin tone, blurs imperfections, and has a natural radiant finish. Plus, it's formulated with skincare ingredients to help strengthen your skin's barrier. With a newly expanded shade range of over 40 radiant shades to choose from and buildable all-day wear. NARS Light Reflecting Foundation. Find your perfect match.
You've maxed out your 401k, you're contributing to an IRA, and making some other investments. You're ahead of the game and doing well. But where do you go from here? The same old story can only get you so far. If you want a new take from a new type of financial professional, we invite you to get a fresh perspective beside an agent with the backing of New York Life. Insurance, investments, retirement, and more. Visit NYL.com to learn more. Investments are offered through registered representatives of NyLife Securities, LLC. Member FINRA SIPC, a New York Life company.
Be sure to subscribe to or follow Gen X Grown Up wherever you listen. And while you're there, rate and review the show too. It helps more than you know.
Mom! Hey, Mom! Look at the people left in the yard.
Look what they left me in the kitchen. Yuck. Guess I know who moves in first. Mr. Clean.
Old Baldy himself.
Uh-oh.
Lemon Fresh Mr. Clean cleans tough dirt and grime right to the shine with no dulling film.
Make it shine, big guy.
Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean.
Well, let's start on the rest of the house.
Couldn't we just live in the kitchen?
Mr. Clean leaves nothing behind but the shine.
I said at the top of the show that this is episode 186. For the last 185 episodes, our buddy Mo will kindly introduce this Tech and Toys segment. However, since he is AWOL from the show, what does he say? Here's Tech and Toys? I don't know what Mo says. I don't have it memorized. So
I don't listen to him, so I don't pay attention to what he
That's not the reason I don't know, but I get that's why you don't know. Damn, hope Mo doesn't listen.
I mean, you know.
All right, so what I'll just do is go.
I don't think that's news to Mo.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I'll just go. So, hey guys, time for Tech of Toys. Mo here. George, what you looking at? That's all.
Well, you know, what I'm. So I knew we had this Tech and Toys segment coming up, and John was explicit when I pitched the idea of he and I doing the podcast that we both better have something for every segment. So I'm like, well, shit, let me go find a tech or toy thing. And I didn't have any toys. I didn't have any physical tech. So I went to my resource of all resources for tech. It's a YouTube channel called Brett in Tech, actually, that used to be called something else. He changed the name. But he often does these 5 useful things you need to use today, or 7 great websites you never heard about kind of videos, right? So I went back to one that I remembered seeing a few weeks ago where he talked about Chrome extensions and some useful ones that you could use. And I'm like, let me go back and look through that one because I think there was something in there. And sure enough, there was. It was this Chrome plugin called Imageye. And the E at the end of image is shared with the first E and I. So it's Imageye that way.
Imageye.
Imageye, so this is just a Chrome plugin that allows you to download in multiple format types every image on a website. Now, you can always right-click an image and go save image as, and as John will attest, you often get that fucking
freaking WebP bullshit. Go straight to hell, WebP. I don't know what you are. You don't belong on this planet. You're like
John
micro USB. You're dead to me. God damn it.
So we have found some other tools that we use. There's one called Save Image as Ping or something like that that turns anything into a PNG file, which is very useful for us when we're creating thumbnails and need some graphics from the web or something like that. But Imageye is a little bit more robust of a tool than that Save as Ping, or even some of those sites that you take an image that you've saved and can convert it to something, which is an extra step, right? You download it, then you got to go somewhere else and convert it. This tool, unlike File Converter, which is a plugin after it's been downloaded that you can use to convert to something, this is in your browser. Like we said, it's a Chrome plugin. When you click it, the first thing it does is it pops out a little side panel from the side of your browser and just floods every image that's on that website into that little sidebar. And you have a little scroll that you can scroll up and down, and you can click on any single image that's in that website and download it as a JPEG or a PNG or as its original format or any number of different things. You can even batch download everything that's on that website, which might be useful to some, not for me, but it has a lot of functionality. It's totally free, 100%, just like a lot of plugins are these days. I haven't tested it long enough to give it my true seal of approval because, you know, there could be something in it that corrupts or has some kind of cookie things in it that shares your information with Putin over in Russia or some shit that I don't know about. But on the surface, plugin. It's a fairly solid plugin. It does what it says, and it does it quickly. Like, it doesn't take long. It populates that whole list in under 20 seconds on most of the web pages I've been to, at least.
I've spent even less time with it than you, but I have spent some time with it only because I saw you were going to talk about it. I'm like, oh, what's this? That George is probably something cool, because usually you have, when it's a plugin, like everything I've adopted and the ear trumpet I've adopted, all those things, those tools. So I went to check it out, and like you, as I went to some random page and I clicked on the button, and slid it open, and like every image, and not only was it there, it listed its dimensions, and you could sort by the biggest or smallest and all that. So like you, I don't see it as being something I need to batch download every picture on a website and just pillage it, but to be able to go, oh, I need the high resolution version of that, or let's see if this has transparency or whatever. I can see it being very helpful. Not often, but when you need it, by God, you need it. And I'm going to keep it installed for a while to see, because I think it has potential.
Yeah. And that's the way with most of the plugins, right? You try them out for a little while. Eventually, you either forget that you have them, and when you see them later on, you go and uninstall them, or you use them religiously forever, like we do some of our other things, like the one that you do that makes all your browser stuff the dark shade, or I use my LastPass plugin religiously for all my password stuff.
Me too.
So, you know, I don't know which way this one will go, but hopefully it'll turn out to be a very useful tool for me. Now, that's what I had for Tekken Toys. So per John's rule, he also has to have something in Tekken Toys. And the thing he has is also useful. I kind of think it's something that Mo recently bought too, or at least in the same vein. I think he picked up a few episodes ago, but we'll see if John's riding his coattails or not.
Yeah, I don't think I am. I don't remember him talking about this specific thing, but also I'm going to also pull a George and kind of talk about two things that I picked up at the same time for a similar purpose. So here's what happened. If you saw on social, I know, George, you saw, we talked about it, but last weekend I went out to an antique mall and I got a whole bunch of those vintage 80s desktop arcade toys, it's like the bowling one and the blip and all that kind of stuff. I found just a mother load of them.
Right.
Well, you get those things home and now you're like, well, let's see if they work. Let's see if they're going to function properly. And right away, a couple of them didn't work, and I've already progressively got them to work, which is a little bit of tinkering. But the first thing I did was realize my limitations. And I said, well, I have a voltmeter that I think I borrowed from Mo about 12 years ago, and he doesn't know I still have. It doesn't work very well. And I don't know that much about electrical. Like I know, like there's volts and amps and caps and, ohms. And I have a vague understanding. I'm dangerous. I know enough to be dangerous. So I called a friend. I phoned up our buddy Thanos, who has experience as an electrical engineer. And I'm like, just pretend I'm 4 and explain to me, because one of these toys I had, the batteries wouldn't work. But it had a DC in that you could plug into.
Okay.
But unlike most DC plugs, this had negative in the center, not on the outside shield. So I'm like, so here's the problem. I have a voltmeter that doesn't work well, so I can't test the traces. And I didn't really understand how to test them until Thanos helped me out. And now I need to be able to bypass these batteries and find something. So the two things I picked up that are now going to be seen probably in a number of other videos in the future as I get more thrifting things. The first is I got this new voltmeter. It's by Aneng, A-N-E-N-G. It's some random 5-letter word that's from overseas probably. But,
yeah, right.
It was only like 10 or 15 bucks. Not only is it a standard voltmeter like you'd expect with the dial and the two probes, but it also has all these extra adapters like alligator clip versions and super fine point versions. Like if you're testing pins on an IC, you need super tiny ones that look like needles almost. They have protective ends so you don't poke yourself.
Right.
So all these extra adapters for the voltmeter. So now I have a good one. And the other thing I picked up that after getting advice from Thanos was a universal power supply. Now I think this is the thing that you thought maybe I'm biting on Mo what he did.
Yeah.
This is this block you'd kind of screw into your desk maybe if you want it permanent. And it's got a dial on it that says, how many volts do you want to put out? 5, 5.2, 5.3. Like you can put how much voltage you want. And it's got, you've seen the cheap ones that have like all these little tips for all the different shapes that you have.
Mm-hmm.
And you can change that out for tips, or you can again put probes on there. So you just want to send something power by, touching a couple of leads, you can do that. It even comes with pre-tinned wire ends. So if you want to just quickly solder something on, you don't have to kind of rig something or get an extra wire. They provide you with leads that are pre-tinned for soldering so that you can tap them on there. So also about 17 bucks, hugely functional. So two cheap things. Now, of course, I found both of these at Amazon. So I'll put links in the show notes that hopefully Mo will come back and realize are there. So he'll put them down in the show notes when he comes back and finds out about this show. But mine are both techie things that I had to pick up because I had a blind spot and an inventory hole where I don't understand how to use it. And I don't have the tools to really test and fix these things. And I'm trying to get out of my comfort zone and learn how to do that. And the first step was good tools. So that's what I picked up.
Nice.
Whether you're ordering wings for the game, whipping up a 7-layer dip, or ordering pizza, there's something about football that makes you want to eat. And this football season, Uber Eats has the best deals on game day food. No matter what you're craving, from 2-for-1 pizza to buy one, get one wings, Uber Eats will be dropping new deals each week, all season long. Uber Eats, official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. Order now. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details.
This episode is brought to you by Coffee Mate. After watching this season of the HBO's original series, The White Lotus, this is the tropical getaway I needed. One more pina colada, please.
Hey, you're not on mute.
Oh, I thought I was in paradise. Turns out it was my coffee mate. Coffee Mate Pina Colada and Thai Iced Coffee flavored creamers. Inspired by the newest season of HBO's original series, The White Lotus. For the love of coffee. Try now.
Each episode of Gen X Grown Up has show notes loaded with links where you can learn more about our topics. And there's even more to see and hear over at GenXGrownUp.com.
When you get your Monday paper, find the Mervin's insert and look inside for bonus coupons worth 10% off any 3 items. Good through Wednesday at Mervin's.
Don't keep up with the Joneses. They will pay. They bought furniture elsewhere at 19.2% interest. Right now at the Brick. Do not pay till May and pay no interest.
This is the main event of the podcast. For the 3 in attendance locally and the millions listening around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time!
All right, time to talk about games. Get this damn episode out of the way because there's only 2 of us and I got shit to do. So, John, what the hell have you been playing since the last time we did one of these podcasts you always rope me and Mo into?
If you want to go, I'll just wrap it up. I'll be a show of 1. That'll be great.
Let's get this shit knocked out in 10 minutes. Let's go.
Places to go. All right. So listen, so back at holidays time, I was contacted by a company called Roasty Buds. And initially I'm like, was this like a weed company? You know, Roasty Buds?
Right.
No. This is actually buds as in coffee beans.
Oh.
And it turns out they were doing a collaboration. You know, the X, you put the X in the middle of something like King Kong X Godzilla or Atari X by Arcade. There's a collab.
Sure.
So this is Roasty Buds X Atari. They were collabing on something.
Ah.
So 2 things they're doing. 1, they're putting out a special Atari Gamers blend of coffee.
Okay.
Both like you can get a bean, you can get it pre-ground in the thing, or you can get the little K cups or whatever. Now I don't know what that's got to do with Atari personally because it's like gamer fuel. You know, this Mountain Dew will help you get kills in Overwatch or something, right? but it's Atari branded. It's no worse than the Atari hot sauces that came out last year, so it's fine. It's fine. But in addition to their coffee blend, they developed in-house an Atari Modern VCS exclusive platformer game called Roasty Buds Special Brew. Now, it's exclusive to the Atari VCS. So it's not on Steam, it's not on PlayStation 4. So this is an exclusive part of this collaboration. And when they contacted me, they said, hey, would you like to try this out? I'm like, well, I'm not a big coffee guy, but I do love Atari and I do have a VCS. But I had not gotten to playing the game until just this past week. So I plugged it in, downloaded Roasty Buds, and I honestly, look, it's a promotional thing. In my head, I'm thinking, the Chester Cheetah video game.
Like Cool Spot?
Cool Spot, the 7-Up silly game or whatever. So it's not that I prejudged this. I just didn't expect a lot out of a game that's a promotion for coffee, right? I am pleased to tell you that my expectations were far outstripped by the cool performance of this little game. First of all, it's in the vein of kind of games we tend to like, indie style games that kind of pixel art, like they squint, they kind of could been on the NES or the Super Nintendo or something, right? They're intentionally pixely. And the premise of this game, it's a level-based platformer, and you play as a little coffee bean.
Okay.
Your job is to free the other coffee beans in these like puzzle warehouses that you go through. And there's obstacles and fireballs and stuff to dodge, you know. As you free each bean, they become like a lemming. They follow you wherever you go. And should you die, the next one in line becomes the one you're controlling. The object is to get as many of the beans up to the top of the screen. Along the way, you can pick up these little, I think they're little leaves or peppers or something, and you get enough of them. You can pull a trigger and go into like bullet time, so everything is really slow. You can pick up special hats to give you immunity powers. And the entire goal, you get to the top of the puzzle. How many do you save? This giant grinder comes up, and every bean jumps in and is shredded into dust.
So it feels a little bit like Lemmings then.
It is, except you're controlling one of them. Whereas Lemmings, you would tell them all where to go. They're all controlling the lead one. So kind of the lead, like, what if you drove the lead lemming? Kind of like that. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. It's a series of puzzle games. Right now it's on sale. I'm planning on doing a live stream on YouTube before too long. I hadn't yet looked at it to know how great it was to go live. So keep an eye out. If I know when it is. I'll give it to Mo to put in the show notes, put a link in here if it happens before this episode is published. But if you have a VCS and you haven't had, like me, a good reason to turn it on in a long time. Some of our fans over on Discord, they use it every day. I just haven't because there was no reason to. This is exclusive. You can only play this on your VCS. So if you log in, you should check this out. Roasty Buds, a special brew, all part of the Atari Roasty Buds coffee collaboration. All right, George, how about you? What have you been playing in games?
Well, I'm playing a game that's not an exclusive to any platform. I believe it's on all the majors, including PC, where I played it through the Epic Store, thanks to a free giveaway, I think through Amazon Prime, because I certainly would never have paid any money for a game these days. I've got too many damn games that I don't play as it is, so I'm not into buying games unless there's a super special reason. This game, I might have paid for had I heard about it and had I had time to play it when it came out. So the game's been out for a little while. I can't even remember the date at this point, but it's called World War Z Aftermath.
Oh, like the movie World War Z, kind of?
The movie World War Z, yeah. Well, originally book, but yes, the movie as well. Right.
Yeah, I don't read.
Yeah, right. That should be your new Tekken toy. Anyway, this is essentially a horde shooter, as they call them, in the same vein and style as Left 4 Dead. You get 4 characters on your team. Right. Oh. That's the thing that you love. I know. I do as well. But it has a extra element, as everything has to these days. It has this whole team mode as well, where you can log on and play online with other people on your team and against a whole nother team. So there are zombies that are chasing everyone, but at the same time, you're fighting against another team too. I tried that for about 5 minutes and realized, I'm about 30 years too old for that shit. Because I literally died 7 times in under 3 minutes. It was just like pop, 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 pop. I was just dead every time. So I am not skillful enough to play in those arenas anymore. But the Left 4 Dead part has co-op where you can play online with friends and you can invite them to your room. So it's remote co-op. Or you can play with 3 computer-driven characters, which I did to test out the game for this podcast.
Yep.
It's a fun little game. As long as you're willing to deal with the first load. So the first time I installed the game through the Epic Store, no problem. It installed in a relatively decent amount of time. I went to load the game, start the game for the first time, and it did this load screen where it said it was like optimizing shaders and all this bullshit that is probably. That took literally 20 minutes.
Yeah, I've seen that before. Yeah,
I had not experienced that before, so I was kind of irritated by that. Then, when the game finally did load, all the online stuff was not accessible. It kept saying, sorry, can't log into blah, blah, blah servers or something. And I'm like, okay, well, you didn't tell me what to do. You didn't show me anything to do. What the fuck am I supposed to do with this? All right. So I played just local co-op with a couple of the computer-generated character kind of guys that were on my team. And it was fun. It was serviceable, had neat little tools, great environments, way more environments than, say, a Left 4 Dead or Left 4 Dead 2 or even Blood for Dead or whatever the hell that thing was.
Back for Blood.
Back for Blood. There you go.
Blood for Dead. That's a pretty good name for it. It's good. Yeah.
Right? That's a new title I'm working on. It was really fun, but I was very irritated at the online component not being there. Now, I got through to it because I said I died 7 times in 3 minutes or whatever. Turned out that the game has to go through your firewall, and the little prompt that needed access to go through my firewall was behind the game window.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't see it until I was closing it down. And so then I said, yes, of course, allow yourself to go through the firewall.
And now you're like, I apologize, World War Z, for all the shitty things I was saying about you under my breath.
Well, no, I'm not apologizing. They should have made sure that fucking thing went to the front of that's an easy programming thing. That's their fault, not mine. But anyway.
Okay.
So I loaded it the second time, and number one, no more 20-minute load time. It loaded right up to the menu, which was great. And then I got to play it. So I started to wonder, I was like, did they do all that shit just to make me appreciate it when it loaded fastly? Like, was that to set expectations so low that everything will look great in comparison afterwards? But It is a fun game.
Not nefarious.
Yeah, I think it's like $30 or $40 though. So, catch it when it's on sale. I think I mentioned it to you and you said it was like $10 somewhere or something at the time you were looking at it.
Yeah, I looked on Is There Any Deal? And there was some store at the time that you can never be sure these go up and down. And when I looked the other day, it was worth 10. And I was kind of asking you to kind of gauge it. Like, do you think has the value of like $10 maybe?
I think it's an easy buy at 5 or 9, 10.
Right.
Yeah, probably. Not 15 or 20 though. I don't think.
Right. Okay.
If you've got a 10 spot to throw at it, yeah, as long as somebody else has the game
to play with. Yes, it's not all computers because we played the living crap out of Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2 back on the old 360 days, and so having something new like that's hop in, hop out kind of cooperative thing that can be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun. So those who are on our Discord channel, GenXGrownUp.com/Discord, who might want to get together and play some World War Z, Left 4 Dead kind of combat, I'm down for it. I have the game now. I just have to add you as a friend somehow in that world. I don't know.
Wow. You can be George's friend. Finally.
Yeah.
Exclusively on ESPN Plus, UFC 313, Saturday. Reigning light heavyweight champion Alex Pereira defends his title against number 1 contender Magomed Ankalaev, and an explosive lightweight bout between Justin Gaethje and Rafael Pazzi. UFC 313, Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern. Buy it on ESPNplus.com/PPV.
I know every operating system like the back of my hand.
When it comes to 5 years of experience and have worked with several people from your company, I've been recognized for my passion. My team is everything.
LinkedIn delivers candidates who rise above the rest. With an up-to-date view into shared connections, skills, and interests you won't find anywhere else. See why 86% of small businesses who post a job on LinkedIn get a qualified candidate within a day. Post a job for free at linkedin.com/achieve. LinkedIn, your next great hire is here.
If you're a die-hard Gen X grown-up, you can pledge your support by clicking join on YouTube or by becoming a patron at GenXGrownUp.com/Patreon.
Lucasfilm's Ewoks, The Battle for Endor will continue in a moment.
Beyond supernatural.
We're going ghost hunting, Jack!
Beyond adventure.
Trust me. Trust you!
Beyond comedy.
That's what we need, another dummy who talks to the dead.
Catch Shadow Chasers, Thursday.
You'll love it!
All right. Still no Mo. We thought maybe he would show up midway through, maybe make a surprise appearance. No, still just me and George. So we are going to wrap up the show. We're not going to wait for him anymore. We're just going to finish it up. Here in this last segment, we always like to take a moment to talk about the things we're looking at now, we're looking forward to between now and the next time we get together. And I'll start it off this time. I usually pitch to Mo here, but I'll start it this time. The first thing is a new film coming March 14th to theaters called Novocaine. Now, this is with Jack Quaid. And basically, he's a guy who cannot feel pain. And so he ends up fighting a bunch of bad guys to save a girlfriend. It looks like a lot of fun. So the next thing I know I'm looking forward to prematurely, but they haven't given us a solid date. What I do know is sometime in 2025, there is a new podcast adjacent audio fiction coming officially from Star Trek called Star Trek Con. This is what evolved from, they were going to do this miniseries called Star Trek Ceti Alpha that covered the time between Space Seed and Wrath of Khan. Well, that died, but it was resurrected as an audio fiction multi-episode podcast presentation. It's been entirely recorded. Post-production's done. It releases sometime in 2025. They're not saying when, but I'm imagining, full sound effects and music, and they have a professional cast. It's not just like reading a book.
They might get me to listen to podcasts again.
Right. This one doesn't do it, but that one might. So yeah, I think you will. The thing I'm looking forward to most, and that I actually have a concrete date for, is March 7th. There's a new film called Mickey 17, starring Robert Pattinson, where he's apparently, from the trailer, the trailer looks so good, I've stopped researching, but apparently he's multiple clones of himself named Mickey 1, 2, 3, 4, all up to 17. And it's one of those like madcap, out of left field, kind of weird looking art house films that looks so good. And Robert Pattinson has done so great as Batman. Ever since his Twilight days, he's only stepped up my respect for him in terms of the films he does. So yeah, Mickey 17, March 7th. I'm looking forward to that the most. George, how about you? What do you got you're looking forward to?
A couple of that are already on your list. Novocaine, of course. I'm looking forward to that as well. Yeah. Love me offbeat superhero kind of film. Those are always fun. This feels like it might be in the kick-ass vein, but a little bit more serious, which will be nice. Yes. Mickey 17, you say it's Robert Pattinson. I swear I saw Domhnall, whatever that guy's name is, who was the older brother from the Harry Potter films. I thought it was him in that role, but I'm sure you're 100% right and I'm wrong. But either way, the premise of that movie looks tremendous. It looks really fun. And
it looks funny.
I love that kind of thing. The thing I'm looking forward to the most, though, is something that will have aired a couple of days before this podcast drops, but I haven't gotten to see it yet. So that's why I'm still looking forward. Daredevil Born Again Season 1. This is the new Disney Plus version of the great Netflix series that had like 3 seasons, maybe 3 seasons, I think, back on the old Netflix days when they had Marvel on Netflix. We had Daredevil, we had Iron Fist, we had Power Man, we had Jessica Jones, we had the Defenders, we even had Punisher. A lot of the characters from those series are already known to be in this. We've got Kingpin again.
Oh, really? Okay.
We saw Punisher up on stage at the Disney Plus conference and everything. So there's going to be a lot of great people coming back to that series. I can't wait. That's on March 4th on Disney Plus, the day after my birthday. So I'm going to have a really good birthday long celebration there, watching some Daredevil for sure.
Yeah. Isn't Vincent D'Onofrio? Is that the guy who's Kingpin? Is that right? Am I remembering correctly?
He plays Kingpin. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, he's terrifying. He does he's so ominous in that role. I might have to check this out.
I mean, anytime you get a Marine who goes crazy and blows his instructor away from one movie and then he becomes Kingpin 20 years later, it's a great path.
Right. And Edgar Bug in the Men in Black.
Right. Yes.
Role that he had. Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a lot of good stuff, a lot of good films, a lot of good stuff coming out, and even more on the horizon. Stuff that I almost pulled back. I'm like, no, save it for the next episode. So we'll have plenty to talk about. Before we jump out of this show, as I like to here at the end before we leave, I want to thank some more folks who've thrown their hat into the ring to support us financially over on Patreon. And these are folks that have set up a regular monthly pledge. Could be as little as $1 a month, $5 a month, whatever you can do to help us keep the show on the air, to keep YouTube videos coming, the quality content we provide you on the website as well. And it cannot be done without the support of these generous patrons. And I want to welcome 2 new patrons this week. Power Driven, super fan over on Discord. He had not joined us yet. He was waiting until he was financially in a position where he could, and he jumped right in with both feet. Thank you, Power Driven. And Brian J. Brian, he supports me over on my vlog quite frequently. He's commenting on every video. I know he's a podcast listener, and he also jumped in, headed over to patreon.com/GenXGrownUp, opened up his wallet and his heart and said, I want to support what you guys do, especially George and John. Mo, not so much because he's not here.
We do. Never
Thank you, Power Driven. Thank you, Brian J. We so much appreciate you. That's going to wrap it up for this edition of the Gen X Grown Up podcast. Don't worry, though. If you were worried, don't worry. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode. And next week, well, that's our backtrack, where we pick a single nostalgic topic and dig in deep. George, would you do the honors and let the fourth listener know what's coming their way next Thursday on the backtrack?
Absolutely. It's time to get out your WCI calling card, dial some 900 numbers, and do some phone freaking, because we're going back to the Gen X era of phone fun, ladies and gentlemen. 100%. We're going to talk all about the crazy stuff you used to be able to do with phones that people have forgotten or don't know how to do anymore, maybe aren't available. Stuff like
or don't need to do.
Yeah, like calling some people back, automatically with the star 69 or 72 or whatever fuck it was. I don't remember, but doesn't matter. We're gonna figure it out. We'll bring all the information to you as the way we can do it.
We'll remember what it is before next week.
Or not. Either way, it'll be a fun podcast.
It will be. That's coming your way this Thursday. We hope you'll... And Mo will be back. He'll be back. So... Well, I'm excited. Look, some of us here are excited to have Mo back.
We might get such a response from this podcast, we might not need Mo anymore. That's all. I'm just saying. He might just go off to his, his sugar mama and never come back.
Poor Mo. We'll all be back next Thursday. I hope you'll join us for that episode. Until then, I am John. George, thank you so much for being here.
Yes, sir.
Fourth listener, I don't know how to end the show. Fourth listener, we appreciate you most of all. Oh, sorry. Mo, we appreciate you. You betcha. Always fun, man. And fourth listener, we appreciate most of all. We can't wait to talk to you again next time. Bye-bye.
See you guys. Take care, everybody.
That's all staying in.
No life, no fun. Don't you know that you're a grown-up?
GenXGrownUp is a member of the Evergreen Podcast family. Learn more at evergreenpodcasts.com.
No more washing shows till sunrise. Unacceptable for grown-ups. Your dinner cannot just be French fries. Basically, life sucks as a grown-up.
You'll say something funny while I'm eating. And go.
Done.
That was hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look, and you just told me we don't need any extra stuff, and you have 2 media things.
Not really. I'm going to do a mention and then my media thing.
Not really. Just cheating like normal. Okay, here we go.
Hi, this is comedian and writer, and let's be honest, I do a lot of things. This is Dino Tripodis, the host of Whiskey Business, the podcast not so much about whiskey as it is one with whiskey. Yes, we drink and talk about whiskey, but we do so much more with so many interesting people. For example, we talk to comedians like Greg Warren.
I don't want to brag, but let's just say I can walk into a Red Lobster and get whatever. I think the pause right there is probably more important than the word.
Amazing athletes like boxing champion Buster Douglas.
When a fighter's down and he's looking for his mouthpiece instead of trying to get up.
That's when I knew it was over.
Yeah, right?
And yes, Bigfoot chasers.
Do you believe in Bigfoot? And if so, does he really eat beef jerky?
The Bigfoot thing is people have seen these, and I've seen a lot of compelling evidence about it.
It's Whiskey Business with Dino Tripodis. Join us for what we call a good conversation with a good pour. You really can't ask for much more than that, can you, people? Check us out at whiskeybusinesspod.com, a proud member of the Evergreen Podcast Network.
I'm Ken Harbaugh, host of Warriors in Their Own Words, a podcast that presents the unvarnished, unsanitized truth of what we have asked of those who defend this nation. As a country, we need these stories more than ever. Stories from Americans who have borne the battle, including 30-year-old remastered interviews with veterans from World War I recounting their time in the trenches of Europe, and with veterans from World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and from our most recent conflicts in Iraq, Afghanistan, and other battlefields Americans may never have heard of. Hear their stories by listening to Warriors in Their Own Words wherever you find podcasts.